Hey, before we do anything else, we have to thank our sponsors, Smile Traveller, who have not only sent me to Barbados, which is very lovely, but also decked me out in this extremely fashionable cap.
Yeah, no, Smile aren't just good at making George look good, they're also specialists in worldwide sports travel. And this winter, they'll be taking England fans to the Caribbean for an exciting white ball series.
Welcome back to another episode of Ask George. After England lose a Super 8 thriller against South Africa, we are, of course, joined again by Chief Correspondent George Dobell, who is in St. Lucia. How are you,
Hello.
George?
Yeah, terrific. I mean, still feel incredibly lucky to be here. It's a really beautiful place.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great game you saw.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it was, but quite different. I think ultimately, I think South Africa read the conditions a bit better, and I'm not sure England got the balance of their side right. In the past, they've always talked a lot about the depth of the batting lineup being really important. And today they had Jofra at 8. So I think when they won the World Cup in Melbourne in 22, they had Chris Woakes at 9. By contrast, and they talked about that depth providing confidence to the top order and giving them, the ability to really go hard in the knowledge that the lower order batters could get them out of a mess if necessary. That's not there anymore, is it? And you can see why they did it. It's not necessarily right or wrong. I think we sort of talked about this before, didn't we? It is a risk, and it worked out against Windies, and it didn't work out against South Africa.
Absolutely. It felt England sides of the past when Liam Livingstone got out, that would have been a very winnable game still. But it felt there was a bit more pressure on because one wicket changed the whole complexion of it.
Yeah, so in that last, I'm just trying to think who did come in at 7. Would it have been Sam Curran in the last World Cup and Woakes at 8, maybe? Um, yeah, no, sorry, it was Woakes at 9. I think Curran was at 7 or 8. No, anyway, Curran was at 8 and Woakes was at 9. I'm pretty sure. Um, it did make a big difference because you saw that Jofra and Sam Curran actually were struggling to really connect with the ball. But as I say, I think they got the balance of the side slightly wrong. The faster bowlers were the easiest to hit. I think, again, that Jofra Archer and Mark Wood were the only two bowlers to concede 10 and over or more. And obviously, they're fantastic bowlers with great pace, but there are occasions, such as today, when that could be used against them. So maybe England would have been better to go in with that extra batter. This has been wise after the event, of course. But de Kock, having played in the CPL, recognised that it wouldn't be quite as easy a wicket because it was a day game. I mean, this is what he said. And he reckoned under lights in the night time there'd be a bit of dew and the ball would skip onto the bat and come quicker and make run scoring easier. So I think England thought it was going to be the same as the other day, and South Africa recognised that it wouldn't.
And just before we get into the main questions, do you think that potentially Butler got it wrong at the toss then and they should have had a bat first?
I don't really know. Because if there was going to be anything in the wicket, it was going to be then, and England like chasing, because you don't have to sort of judge what a score is so much as just go for it. You know exactly what your target is. So I don't really, and I don't think they got that much wrong in the game. I think Quinton de Kock is a very, very good batter, and he went hard early on, and it came off. He played some shots. He hit a Joe for a 6 over sort of square leg. It's a good ball. Sort of a pickup shot, which he can play and not many can. I think sometimes you just got to say well played. And I thought that South Africa were the better side actually today. The fielding's outrageous. The bowling's really good, apart from that one Bartman over. And and Quinton de Kock played an innings of fluency that no one else could match. So England didn't get masses wrong. I think tactically they erred, and I do think in the selection and what they thought was a good score. But yeah, two good sides, and South Africa were the better one of them.
Absolutely. So I asked about the toss in terms of the conditions, but Sushant has asked, why do England choose to bowl with this batting lineup?
I don't really know what the question means. Why wouldn't they? I mean, ultimately you either bat or bowl, yeah, and you've got to do both well. It's not that big a deal, the toss, isn't it? I don't, people go gasp at the toss as if they're surprised. It's bat or bowl, yeah? Neither of them should be a massive surprise. If Josh Butler turned around and went, we get a unicorn, that would be weird. But bat or bowl? Really, it really wasn't an extraordinary decision. You could argue that they could have done it differently, but it's such a detail. You've just got to do it a bit better. But as I said, I don't think they got it wrong. I actually thought, Topley has just bowled 4 overs there, 3 in the power play, 1 at the death for 23, I think. He hasn't got any wickets, but he's putting the batters under pressure, and it's just not coming off in terms of wickets right now. I don't think they did a lot wrong. I don't know. So I don't agree with that. I don't really know what you mean. Why wouldn't they chase? They've got a very good record over a few years of chasing. Most good teams prefer to chase.
Absolutely. So I suppose halfway, because of what we'd seen in the night games, we thought England were well on top halfway through. Certainly, I did, and
I did too.
it comes on to the question that Matthew Wright asked: how good have England been in squeezing teams in the last 10 overs?
Well, they did it very well today. Pretty good in the last few games. They have. They've been really, really good. You know why, though, don't you? Because they've got Jofra back. Massive difference. Even though he didn't have his best day today, still fantastic. And Adel Rasheed is, England's greatest ever white ball bowler, maybe. Certainly, I can't. Have England ever had a better leg spinner? I don't know. But, Eric Hollies took thousands of first-class wickets, but certainly not in my lifetime. He was a magician again today, wasn't he? 4 overs for 20. And yes, so they're able to put a squeeze on. And actually, Topley came back well. Curran did all right. They did quite a lot of things really well today, And there was some outrageously good fielding, not least from Josh Butler. I wouldn't want to be too critical. You can lose to good teams in T20. It's okay. The results can be terribly disappointing and catastrophic to your chances. But it doesn't mean you've played badly, and I don't think they did play badly. I think they got the balance of the side a bit wrong. I don't think they did much else wrong. Quinton de Kock's a really good batter.
Really interesting what you say about Adel Rasheed. I think there's a lovely thing in T20 cricket that's quite a niche, but when a bowler has that much respect from the opposition, you're almost willing just to bat out their 4 overs. And Heinrich Klaasen, the way he would normally see a leg spinner and take them down immediately, just sort of batted out that over, and then unfortunately got run out for him, unfortunately. But there's a brilliant thing in T20 cricket when there's that respect for a bowler, and Adel Rasheed has that.
He does, but remember David Weiser took him down the other day, and Adel Rasheed said after the game a couple of days ago, I did what I always do, and today it worked. And there's a bit of truth in that, isn't there? Sometimes people will take you on, it'll be their day, and it comes off, and sometimes they'll take those risks and it will backfire. And today they decided almost not to take the risks. But you're right that England clawed that back really well. I think they conceded 35 in 7 overs after the power play. But de Kock had kind of won the game by then, hadn't he? He recognised that batting was going to be easier against the hard, fast ball. And he went after it. He played, or they played Moeen Ali out quite early as well. I mean, I think they took him for 10 or something. But they didn't go wild after him. He went after the fast bowlers. And it was very successful, particularly against Jofra.
I'm very intrigued when this question was asked, where in the game we were. But WG Rumblepants asks, is Phil Salt what the England Test team need in the middle order with the gloves to take them to the next level of Bazball?
Well, there's a lot going on in that question, and I think there is a really strong chance that Phil Salt could be in the England side as the keeper. But I don't know. I wonder whether they're delaying naming the squad so that they're not in the middle of a global tournament. If, for example, this is pure speculation, if, for example, they would have dropped Johnny Bairstow from the Test side, would that have a knock-on effect to this campaign? I don't know, but it might, mightn't it? I mean, he wouldn't be happy about it. Maybe his fury would be directed in a very positive way, but I suspect that Johnny Bairstow is sitting very precariously. And I fear that Ben Foakes is too. So I'd pick Ben Foakes as England's keeper. I don't think they will. I think that Ollie Robinson at Durham or Phil Salt are probably the most likely alternatives. And they're both, they're all very, very good cricketers. Phil Salt's a terrific player, sort of growing by the day, which makes it sound ridiculous that I'm saying I wouldn't pick him, but I wouldn't, and partly because he's doing so well, and that specialisation is probably helping him at the moment. And he won't think that. He'll want to play everything he can. Of course he will. He'd be mad not to. But in the same way that I thought that Jos Buttler is a great white ball cricketer, and I think it probably helps him that he's not trying to do the red ball job anymore. And you can see why they wanted to pick him, because his ceiling's so high and he can be so good. But there's so much global limited overs cricket and franchise cricket and what have you. I just think that you would be in danger of damaging Salt long term if he was asked to play all that. But I think they probably, I'm sure they're thinking about it. And just to go to the reference in the question, I'm not a massive fan of the whole Bazball philosophy. I'm not. Obviously, this England Test side are wonderfully entertaining, but I think the messaging from the management is unhelpful. I think it's simplistic, and I think it's telling people in county cricket to play a way that won't optimise their ability. But I am in a minority, and the argument in many ways has been lost. So I wouldn't pick someone just because it helped the mentality of the side, that it created a more consistent counter-punching side. And no doubt Phil Salt is good enough to play Test cricket. I'm sure he is. If you're picking him, I would pick Ben Foakes, because I think he's a wonderful, wonderful keeper. And there are so many times when that makes a huge difference. And the problem for Ben Foakes is that other people keep getting out too quickly. So maybe they should work on maybe not scoring so fast as much as not getting out so fast. Ben Foakes' problem is that other people. He has to pay the price for it. You could put him up the order. I mean, you could. In the winter, I said this several times, bat him at 5. It wouldn't have been that ridiculous. And you could have had Stokes and Bairstow below him. And then they would have been the ones batting with the tail potentially, and he'd have had a bit more time. But look, he didn't. Foakes didn't take every opportunity to score the runs he could have done, and that's going to count against him. But I do think he's special as a keeper, and I'd pick my best keeper in Test cricket. I would.
The Indoor Kite Society asks, successful racehorses get put out to stud for a lot of money. How much should the ECB pay for Adel Rasheed to be stud?
Well, this is thinking outside the box, the sort of thinking that would get you a job in a blazer at Loughborough in the old days. So I have all sorts of idea. I don't know, but I love the way you're thinking. Probably not going to happen. Probably is this eugenics? Is that the word? Anyway, I suspect morally there might be one or two issues, but very flattering. Rash, of course, is not a racehorse, but the point being that he is such a special cricketer, isn't he? Such a special cricketer, and we're terribly lucky, and it makes England, this era of English cricket. I mean, he's been a huge part in the best era of England's white ball cricket. So, and he'll be hugely missed. I don't know how you replace him. Hopefully, Rahan will step up, but Adel Rasheed's been a special cricketer.
George Young asks, the ground looks virtually empty. Is that because of the time of day, ticket price, or other reasons?
Do you know what? It wasn't that bad. People watch cricket a bit differently here. For a start, they keep coming in after the game started. And it was brutally hot. I mean, you'd be insane to sit out in the sun. Mad Dog's an Englishman, yeah? But even Mad Dogs would lie in the shade here. It's hot. So there's probably more people than you realise in the shade where you don't see them. So it absolutely wasn't full, but you know, I guess lots of local people are at work, yeah, and it is, as you say, at 10:30 in the morning, a slightly odd time of day. I don't know how many South African people have travelled, and you always get quite a lot of English tourists, but maybe not for the numbers that come for Test cricket, certainly not. But so all the factors that you've said, but also it wasn't that bad actually. It's just people were sitting more sensibly in the shade. It was brutal today. It was really, really hot. You could see how uncomfortable Harry Brook looked after a series of quick runs. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about today's attendance. It was all right.
Good, good. Ripe Lemon asks, are one-paced bowlers in the white ball game now cannon fodder? Without variations, Mark Wood looks ineffective.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that's been the case for a while. Classic example, I guess, would be Cummins in the ODI World Cup final, where I think he bowled a whole spell, 10 overs of cutters. I'm not sure he bowled a single ball pace on. Liam Plunkett was England's version previously, wasn't he? And you just got natural variation of bowling hard into the pitch with cutters. Some will grip, some won't. In that World Cup in 19, that proved very successful on good wickets. You know, had it been the wickets that we'd had in previous years in England, might not have been. Mark Wood's lack of variation until the last few weeks has been amazing, really. But he's got such a special talent, hasn't he? You know, the ability to bowl at that pace. Combined with his injury issues, you can understand why he thinks, well, I'm going to take all this effort to run up. I'm not then going to take pace off this hard won pace. I'm not going to waste it by rolling my fingers over the ball or anything. But the point is valid that you've got to have variation because otherwise batters are so good. And they set themselves and they even managed to deal with Mark Wood's pace. So he is learning, but yeah, equally bowlers can overdo the variations. We were talking about how well Jofra bowled the other day, and he had a whole over of pace on at one stage. The over that got Curran out, and it was brilliant because of it. So they've got very, very special skills, those two. But when you are able to have the ability to bowl a 95 miles an hour ball and the ball before 74 miles an hour, I just think it makes the variation so much more valuable. It makes the whole package more valuable because the batter doesn't know what's coming. So, yeah, it's a bit odd that Mark Wood got to be 34 or something before he had the chance to work on the variations. But you know his injury issues and you know his special talent, and you can sort of understand why.
The Occidental Tourist has asked, has England's lack of a legitimate all-rounder cost them this game? We discussed this earlier, but number 7 and number 8 seemed too high for Curran and Archer.
Well, Curran's okay at 7, I'd say, but I think Moeen was at 4 and Livingston at 6. So you've got 3 all-rounders in the top 7, and Jofra is definitely too high at 8. And he's a lot too high, I think, to be honest. If Ben Stokes at his best is fit, he gets in the side. And was it a day when Chris Woakes would have helped? Well, it probably was, wasn't it? But you can, I think I did one of these videos at the time. I would have picked Chris Woakes, but this is being slightly wise after the event, isn't it? I don't know. I think they got the balance of the side wrong, as I say. I mean, yeah, I think they got it slightly wrong. But Ben Stokes at his best, of course he gets in the side, and of course he makes it better. And Chris Woakes, the other thing that Chris Woakes does, which they haven't been doing, is he had a very good record of taking wickets with the new ball. But I think they've bowled all right with the new ball. The wickets just haven't come. I think Topley's been a real asset, to be honest. Just hasn't taken a wicket yet. But 3 overs in the power play again, and then one at the death for 23. Can't really ask for more, can you?
The opinion I've always had about Sam Curran as a T20 batter is actually 7's too low for him. whenever I've seen him score runs in T20 cricket, it seems to be when he gets an opportunity to go higher up the order. He's used as a matchup player against left arm spin, and then has a bit more time to get himself in before he has to go from ball one. That's always been my opinion on Sam Curran, rather than being too high.
Yeah, well, that's reasonable. Of course it is, but everyone wants to bat at the top of the order.
Of course, yeah.
And is he better than the people who are doing it? And he isn't, is he? So
No.
the other he could have gone where Moen went. That would have been completely reasonable. But those 6, 7, 8 positions, or anything, are from 4, 5 really very, very difficult in T20. You've got to go hard very early. Don't have a chance to play yourself in. Your stats aren't going to look very good at first glance, but it's an important role, and you've got to be able to do it. And again, he wasn't able to today, but it's not necessarily his fault. It was a difficult wicket, and I thought, apart from one poor ball, Norkia bowled really well to him. Rabada got Livingston hitting into the breeze. I mean, again and again, I'm going to say to you, South Africa deserve credit. They're a very, very good side. And this may be where England are as a side right now. I think they might beat South Africa if they played them again tomorrow, but I don't know, maybe 6 times out of 10 South Africa will beat them at the moment. Don't know. Good side, So it's no disgrace to be beaten by them. But yeah, of course, a really good all-rounder would have balanced the side better. I mean, of course, Ben Stokes fully fit makes any side he plays in better. But they could, and should they have taken Wokes? Maybe. It's an absolutely fair debate.
On the makeup of the side, Reece Benjamin has asked, did England's middle order let them down yet again? And is it time for a genuine middle order players like Duckett and Pope to get a chance?
Well, I don't know about letting them down yet again. I mean, I thought Harry Brook played beautifully. I actually thought Livingston played pretty well. I mean, he did get served up a right plate of lollies, didn't he, in 1 over? 5 full tosses. And then he was out to a full toss. But I don't know about letting them down again, but I do think their batting is a batter light. And they have got Will Jacks here. And I think they should have played him. But Duckett as well could have played. Yep. That's completely fair. It might have made sense against the left-arm spin of Maharaj in particular, and against the 2 left-arm spinners in the West Indies side. It's not an unreasonable thing to say. I wouldn't say the middle order let them down. I mean, I don't know who, Bairstow's had 2 good games out of the last 3. Harry Brook looks fantastic. Livingston's done all right here. I mean, if you mean Sam Curran and Moen, didn't come off today, did it? But I don't know. They've done all right.
I think that is quite harsh on the middle order, but yes. So next game for England is the USA. Daniel Chapman asks, given years of experience of watching England, does this have a loss to the USA and an early exit written all over it?
No, I'd be really surprised. I mean, I think England are a good side, and I think the semi-finals would be par for them. So, but you can't take it lightly. And obviously, I've covered the games where England have lost to Netherlands and twice, in fact. So they won't be taking anything for granted. And I don't know which side they'll put out, but England are strong favourites, eh? And if they win, it would take a miracle for them not to go through. There's poor weather around. 55% chance of rain in Barbados that day right now. But it doesn't. It's even rained here today. It's rained here just straight after the game and rained hard for a few minutes. It does rain a lot here, but it doesn't mean it will be like that first game against Scotland where it sets in and you got 12 hours of it. That's quite unusual. So we might have some anxious moments, but no, I think England should go through and they should be too strong for the USA. But as I've said many times, it would be half the game it was if it was predictable.
Absolutely. I think actually looking at the group, if the West Indies beat USA and then beat South Africa and England beat the USA, it might all be set up that those 3 teams are all with 2 wins.
Yeah, but England gave West Indies a bit of a pasting, so their net run rate's good.
Yeah.
And they obviously have an opportunity against against the US to improve it further. So if it comes to net run rate, England are pretty well poised. There's quite a lot of things to fall into place, Oscar. So you wouldn't want to stake your house on it, but they're quite well placed. There is no reason to be panicking at this stage. I'm pretty quietly confident England will get into the semi-finals. They're going to clip that up and come back and bite me, eh?
Yes. And on that note,
hey, can you believe how few people have entered the competition to win this sweaty hat?
Well, you sold it so
What's
well
the matter?
for calling it a
What is
sweaty hat. So
It is a sweaty hat. It's very, very hot. Lord, it's hot. I wouldn't really be wearing it normally. Obviously. Yeah, very strange. What's the opposite of going viral? Which is ironic because you probably can get several viruses from this hat. Everything in this hat's bacterial.
Anyway, thank you very
Do
much.
enter the competition.
Yes, do enter the competition. Thank you for sending in your questions. Thank you, George, for answering them. We'll be back, or you'll be back for an Ask George after England's game against the USA on Sunday. So send in your questions and look out for that. But thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you, everyone, for sending the questions in. Cheers.